was championship weekend for the Quinnipiac men's soccer team. Would it be able to win the MAC title for an automatic bid to the NCAA tournament?
And the rugby team also is in the playoffs as it faced Westchester in the quarterfinals. How would it fare?
The men's and women's hockey team both faced tough ECAC opponents in Dartmouth and Harvard. All the results coming your way.
And as always, we give you this week's top 5 plays, and trust me, there was a lot to choose from. Sports Paws starts right now.
Hello everyone and welcome to this week's edition of Sports Paws. I'm Sierra Goodwill.
And I'm Drew Feinberg. Sierra, as you mentioned, the men's soccer team battled in the final rounds of the MAC tournament this past weekend. Let's see how they fared in the semifinal round. Quinnipiac hosting Canisius in the semifinal round. As I said, both teams looking to go to the MAC championship. In the first half, the ball is going to be shot by Eamon Whalen. It's going to bounce around and find the foot of Matt Taylor, who's going to shoot and score, giving Quinnipiac the 1-0 lead. Now in the second half, Canisius is going to have a cross in. It's going to be bobbled around and find the foot of number 5, Thomas Toypin, who scores off the cross. Quinnipiac is now up 2-1. Now we're going to take a look at Rashawn Daly, who had quite the game for himself, peppering shots to Canisius' goalie, Marco Travalato. There's a shot right there, saved. Another cross is going to come in. Quick shot by Rashawn Daly is going to be saved, but that won't be it for him. In the 57th minute, he's going to come in, dribble around the goalie, and score, putting Quinnipiac up 3-1, his 4th goal of the season. As you can see right here, Daly's family celebrating the goal. Very happy for him. As I said, his 4th goal of the season. And that's going to be it for Quinnipiac as they win 3-1, advancing to the championship game versus Ryder. Rashawn Daly, Eamon Whalen, and Matt Taylor with the goals for Quinnipiac.
And here it is, Drew, the championship game hosted by Quinnipiac on the QU soccer field, potentially the last game ever played on that field. But heading right into the first half, Quinnipiac defender Yeppe Yare just not looking where he's passing the ball. An easy intercepted pass by Ryder. Elia Amane has a wide open net, is able to put it past Chris Yakovidis. Ryder has the 1-0 buffer heading into the break. In the second half, Quinnipiac will get one back. We got the view from behind the net. Connor McCoy heads one past Ryder goalie Ryan Baird. Quinnipiac fans celebrating the equalizer there. But here you see a ripper from Clement Barre from far side, putting Ryder up 2-1. James Doig sends a cross in. Rashawn Daly just could not settle the ball, taps it way high. James Doig trying to set another one up. McCoy trying to head another one in, but Baird gets his hands on that one. Ryder goes on to win by a final score of 3-1. A little pushing and shoving at the end of the game. Ryder will play Vermont in the first round of the NCAA tournament. But here's head coach Eric DaCosta post-game.
They want greatness. They want to achieve. They want to win championships, and they did. We won a regular season championship. Unfortunately, we don't have the right to move forward and represent the MAC in the NCAA tournament. Only one team finishes their season with a win, and that's a national champion. Other than that, everybody else along the way is going to eventually fall. Unfortunately for us, it wasn't our time. Hopefully in the future, these guys have their time.
MJ Baird and I were at the championship game and broke down some of the main components of the loss. A dominating 3-1 win by the Ryder Broncs in the MAC championship game broke the hearts of the Quinnipiac men's soccer team here on its home field. I'm Sierra Goodwill, joined alongside MJ Baird. MJ, Ryder really controlled pace and possession the entire first half. So were the Bobcats lucky to head into the locker room at the break down just 1-0?
Sierra, I would say they were more than lucky to head into the locker room after the first half, down only 1 goal. That goal, of course, coming with only 3 minutes left in the first half, which is tough if you're Eric DaCosta and you're the Bobcats, because you have momentum for 42 minutes, and then the last 3 it seems to go down. But shots were 6-2 in the first half in favor of Ryder. I don't have the exact stat on this, but I'd say 4 or 5 of those came in the first 15 or 20 minutes of this game. As you said, Ryder just came out of the gate, cruising. It looked like Quinnipiac falling back a little bit. They were playing not to lose the game instead of to win the game. Almost like those first 20, 25 minutes, like I said, Quinnipiac was playing a man down. Granted, they actually weren't. It was 11-on-11, but Ryder just dominating play. I would attribute that a little bit to Quinnipiac, on their home field, being a little bit nervous. They're playing in this MAC championship game. The last time they won it, 2013. So definitely nerves there playing in. A lot of a young team for Eric DaCosta. So that's what I really attribute that to.
Yeah, but Eric DaCosta must have said the right things at the break because they came out in the second half with a little bit of fire under them. Connor McCoy scoring just 5 minutes into the second half after being dominated the entire first half. What does that say about the resiliency of this team?
You know, Eric DaCosta harped on this after the game, the resiliency of this team. And you've seen this, you know, time in and time out with sports teams. But this year, I don't know what it was about this Quinnipiac team, just the culture in the locker room. They really had the heart to come back. Going down, as I said, a goal in the last 3 minutes of a half. That's like in hockey, scoring in the last period of the game. It's tough to rebound from. But Eric DaCosta and the captains of this team must have done a good job. Players like James Doig in the locker room, you know, pumping this team back up. You know, there's still 45 minutes of soccer left. And if you can come out and score one early, like the Bobcats did, as you said, it can bode well for the rest of the game. I mean, obviously, the first half of that second half, if you will, first 15 or 20 minutes was, I don't want to say all Quinnipiac, but they held their own against Ryder, something you didn't see at the beginning of the first half. So wise words, I guess, from Eric DaCosta, but they paid off in that first half of the second half.
We now welcome into the show soccer analyst Maury Hirsch-Gordon. Maury, thank you for joining us.
What a great title you guys gave me.
So, Maury, a tough loss for a young Bobcats team. Were the stakes too high for them in the championship game?
You know, I don't think so, Drew. I think this team was prepared for it, but like Eric DaCosta said all year long, the team was a little young. One of just the 15 players that Quinnipiac played in the championship game on Sunday afternoon played in that 2013 championship game in which it won, and just 5 of the 15 played in the 2014 semifinals, held right here in Hamden. On the flip side, you look at Ryder, and they were prepared. The defending conference champions had just 2 players of the 16 that played that weren't a part of the team last year. One of those guys was a guy from France, Clement Barret, who displayed, you know, tremendous poise on the field, had the second goal. He had it going on. So I think a little bit of it was Quinnipiac's youth, but I think a lot of it was, you know, Ryder was ready for the moment, and they had been there.
And a lot of people stepped up for Quinnipiac this season, but if you could pick just one MVP of the season, who would it be?
Sierra, no, you're right. A lot of pieces stepped up for this team this season, on the field, off the field. But I think if you have to pick an MVP, I think it has to be Eamon Whalen. I think you guys would agree with me on this one. The Rookie of the Year, first team all-conference, the most goals for a Quinnipiac men's soccer player since 2008, since his own assistant coach, Graciano Brito, scored 18 back in 2008. Eamon Whalen was tremendous. 11 goals of Quinnipiac's 32 on the year, over 30% of the team scoring. He had 4 game-winning goals. Such an integral piece. Someone who was able to put his head on any ball that got into the box, and seemingly it seemed like he scored almost every single time he played at home.
Eamon Whalen showing a lot of promise for this team's future, but Sunday's loss marked the end for 3 Quinnipiac seniors. What did those players mean to this program?
Brian Westerman, Ryan Scheiderman, and Liam O'Sullivan meant everything for this program. Not only did they win 3 conference championships and went to 1 NCAA tournament, but they were resilient. And that's the word Eric DaCosta used, Drew, in his post-game press conference, because not only did this team get to the championship game and almost get into the NCAA tournament for a second time in 4 years, but these 3 seniors took a program that had 1 win last year and turned it into the most ever. Eric DaCosta said, hey, if they would have had 6 wins, 7 wins, then definitely, the season would have been a success. But they double that. They get to 13. They have home field advantage. They win a regular season conference championship. They did a lot. And most impressively, they did it in the summertime. They were calling freshmen and sophomores, new players into the program, asking them, what they need for school, anything else they need, to get right into the team, feel at home. Because Eric DaCosta said last year, a reason why the team only had one win was because there were a lot of groups and cliques within the team, but these 3 seniors made sure that was not to happen this year, and it really paid off on and off the field.
As you mentioned earlier, Maury, there were a lot of young players on this team. So do you see Quinnipiac making it this far again next season?
Obviously, Sierra. I think this team's going to get back to the championship game. I think that they are going to win this game. Like I mentioned, a ton of players going to be returning for Quinnipiac. Just 3 players won't be back, and 2 of them really, the only ones who played significant minutes. And it's really the expectation every year with this Quinnipiac men's soccer team. Now in the last 5 years, it's won 4 regular season conference championships. Eric DaCosta, Graciano Brito have their team ready every single game, and I think that they will be back in the championship game and go one step further and win a MAC ring.
Thanks so much, Maury, for joining us.
Thank you.
Anytime.
Now on to another team who's in the playoffs, the number 1 ranked rugby team. It faced off against 7th seeded Westchester in the quarterfinals on Saturday. Quinnipiac had no trouble advancing, cruising to a 94-15 win. Next up for the Bobcats is Army, the team they defeated in the national championship last season. The semifinal game is set for Friday, November 18th in West Point, New York. Note that Central Washington is on the other side of the bracket, the team that dealt Quinnipiac its only loss of the season. That could make for quite the national championship game, Drew.
You're very right about that, but we're going to take a quick break. But when we come back, we have highlights from the men's hockey team's home weekend against Harvard and Dartmouth.
And the women's team also faced the same opponents on the road. All the results coming up next on Sports Paws.
Coming up on hashtag that.
We are your source for Quinnipiac's entertainment news.
Coming up on hashtag that.
We are your source for Quinnipiac's entertainment news.
Welcome back to Sports Paws. The men's hockey team took the ice this weekend in a home matchup against Dartmouth. Let's see how they fared. Dartmouth coming all the way to Connecticut to face the men's ice hockey team. Let's take it to the first period. Dartmouth's John Ersting is going to get the rebound, shoot, and score. Dartmouth is up 2-1 at this point. Still in the first period, Quinnipiac's Scott Davidson drives towards the goal. He's going to take a shot, and it's saved by Dartmouth goalie number 33, Devin Buffalo. Now in the second period, after a deflected pass, Tim Clifton is going to take a ripper and score. The game is tied 2-2 at this point. Great goal by Clifton. Now take it to the third period now. Quinnipiac's number 16, Landon Smith, is going to get a drive, or going to take a shot and score. That is a hat trick for Landon Smith, and Quinnipiac is going to win this one 6-3, and we see the celebration by Landon Smith. He's very excited, and the hats rain down at High Point Solutions Arena.
The next night, Quinnipiac hosted Harvard, but without Jimmy Vesey on the team, he left for the NHL. So let's see how the Bobcats would fare in the first period. Freshman defenseman Brogan Rafferty rips one from just inside the blue line, putting Quinnipiac up 1-0, his second goal of the season. But Harvard ties it back up in the first period. Victor Dombrowski, a slapper, past Chris Truhl. They'll head into the break 1-1. Second period now. Sean Malone, just 24 seconds into the second period, puts his own rebound home to give Harvard the 2-1 edge. But then Craig Martin, a wrister from right outside the red circle, past Merrick Madsen, ties things back up at 2-2, and then Luke Shiplow from the high slot. A beautiful goal, his first of the season. He's been playing defense and offense all season long. And then in the third period, the open netter, Tommy Shutt, just dives on the puck. It sails down to give Quinnipiac the 4-2 win. A great hustle play there by Tommy Shutt just to give his team the extra goal. Quinnipiac sweeps the ECAC weekend. Men's ice hockey beat reporters MJ Baird and Victoria Rutigliano were up at the bank after the game to talk about Quinnipiac's first ECAC weekend sweep of the season.
2 games, 4 points. The Quinnipiac men's ice hockey team swept the weekend here at High Point Solutions Arena, beating the Dartmouth Big Green by a final score of 6-3 yesterday, and tonight hosted the Harvard Crimson and beat them by a final score of 4-2. Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Rebound, presented by Q30 Television and Q30 Sports. I'm MJ Baird, joined alongside today Victoria Rutigliano, a men's ice hockey beat reporter. Victoria, thanks for coming on.
Oh, well, thank you for having me, MJ.
Victoria, so let's start our rebound today talking a little bit about today's game, but the weekend as a whole. Start with special teams. Quinnipiac, 5 power play goals over the course of 2 games this weekend. They had struggled earlier in the season with the power play. How do you think that's improving as we saw this weekend?
I think it's improving because they're finding players that are meshing well. And Rand Pecknold said in the press conference they're finding where these players need to be on the ice in order to find these holes, in order to get these shots on net. You're seeing from this team 3 defensemen on the power play first unit, which is not normal. Usually you might see 3 forwards, 4 forwards to try to get that offensive movement going along, but Pecknold has 3, and he said the reason for this is he wants to have his best players out on the ice. And you saw in these games, he did. They had 5 power play goals, 3 last night against Dartmouth, 2 tonight against Harvard, and these power play goals have been huge for this team. Without them, obviously, the scores would have been completely different, and in a season where there's a lot more penalties being called, you really need to have a strong power play unit, and they're starting out to have that.
Victoria, as Rand Pecknold has harped on all season, losing a lot of players last year on the power play. Sam Annis, Devon Taves, only some of the names that Quinnipiac has lost. But let's move on now to another name the Bobcats lost, Michael Gartig, the person filling that void, Chris Truel. How would you rate his performance this weekend?
I think he had a relatively good weekend. I mean, he did come away with 2 wins. I thought he played pretty well on the penalty kill. The Bobcats killed a lot of penalties over the past 2 nights and were 100% on the PK. And Pecknold said in the press conference the most important player on the ice during the penalty kill is the goaltender.
Taking a look at this week's USCHO.com men's hockey poll, Quinnipiac has jumped all the way from the number 7 spot up to the number 4 position. Also, Denver has moved from number 2 to number 1 in the country with a tie and a win on the road against North Dakota. Rounding out the top 5, Minnesota Duluth comes in at number 2, Boston College is number 3, and Boston University drops from 4 to 5 in the polls.
From the men's team onto the women's team, who also faced off against Dartmouth and Harvard just on the road. Quinnipiac first traveled to Hanover, New Hampshire to face winless Dartmouth. After a scoreless first period, Kenzie Lancaster put the Bobcats on the board first, just under halfway through the second period. Dartmouth then tied things up on the power play in the latter half of the third period, but Quinnipiac's redshirt freshman Kate McKenzie responded with a goal just 40 seconds later to give the Bobcats a 2-1 win. That was McKenzie's first goal of her career as a Bobcat.
Now we're going to take a look as the women's ice hockey team travels all the way up to Boston to face Harvard in this matchup. We're going to take it all the way to the third period. Quinnipiac's Kenzie Lancaster is going to take a shot, and it's saved by Harvard goalie Brianna Lang. It's a 0-0 tie right now.
Let's circle her shot, score!
After that goal to make it 1-0 to Harvard, the puck is going to find its way to Katie Tabin's stick. She's going to take a ripper, and it's going to be a goal for her second goal of the season. Now in the third period, QU's Sierra Goodwill is going to take a shot, and it's going to be saved by Brianna Lang. Great save by her. And in the third period, great passing by Quinnipiac. It's going to find the stick of TT Cianfrano. She's going to dangle and score, and it's going to be 2-1 for Quinnipiac. Great goal by Cianfrano, and Quinnipiac is going to win this one 2-1 in Boston.
This week's USCHO.com polls did not show as much movement as the men's poll did. In fact, numbers 1 through 9 did not change at all. Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Minnesota Duluth still came in at 1, 2, and 3, and Quinnipiac remains in 8th. Northeastern rounds out the rankings at number 10 after being unranked last week.
On Saturday, the volleyball team took the ride to Fairfield University, trying to get revenge for a home loss to the Stags earlier this year. The Quinnipiac gave MAC leading Fairfield all it could handle as they tried to stay perfect in conference play heading into the playoffs. However, the Stags were able to prevail, winning the 4th set 26-24 and winning the game 3-1. Sophomore Jen Coffey led the Bobcats with 13 kills. Allison Lee finished with 9 kills and 8 blocks, extending her Quinnipiac Division I record in blocks to 167. Senior defensive specialist Cody Michaels collected 8 digs, giving her 985 in her career, 15 shy of 1,000 entering the MAC tournament. Fairfield University enters the MAC tournament as the #1 seed with an undefeated record of 18-0 in conference play. They earned a first-round bye. With a 19-game win streak, they also enter the tournament with the nation's longest win streak. The Bobcats finished the regular season with a 19-12 record overall and 11-7 in the MAC, earning the #3 seed. They will host Niagara University on Friday at 5 in the MAC quarterfinal.
That was a tough loss for the volleyball team, Drew, but when we come back, our own Brenna Oracoli got the chance to sit down with Elizabeth Kloos of the volleyball team to preview the MAC tournament.
And don't forget about the top 5 plays of the week. You won't want to miss it. We'll be right back.
Coming up on hashtag that.
We are your source for Quinnipiac's entertainment news.
Coming up on hashtag that.
We are your source for Quinnipiac's entertainment news.
Thanks for sticking with us here on Sports Paws. One fall sport we cannot forget about is cross country. The men's and women's team competed in the NCAA Northeast Regional on Friday. On the men's side of things, the dynamic duo of Brendan Copley and Dylan Fearon both had top 50 finishes. The men's team finished in 22nd place overall. For the women, they finished in 14th place, its best finish since 2009. Senior standout Neve Ash finished in 42nd place in her final race as a Bobcat. But now, as we promised, we'll send it over to Brenna Oracoli, who sat down with Elizabeth Kloos of the volleyball team.
Hi guys, I'm Brenna Oracoli. I'm sitting down today with junior volleyball captain Elizabeth Kloos. Elizabeth, thank you for joining us.
No problem.
So to start, serving as captain this season as a junior, what goals did you set for this year?
Well, we definitely wanted to change the program around. Even just being in the top 6 was a goal for us, and as the season progressed, it was obvious that we needed to accomplish more than just 6. So that was huge for us.
And with 19 wins this season so far, you've really accomplished that. What has changed in terms of team dynamic from your freshman year to now?
There's just so many little things I think is a big difference, because we were always really close in games. We weren't ever getting killed by a ton, and so that was really frustrating, just to constantly be down by a little bit and never being able to finish it out. So just little things, like coaches are always on top of us for like just the littlest mistakes, and that's what makes the difference in the end.
So what has gone on in practice that has contributed to these little things?
We got a new assistant coach, so he's brought in a lot of new drills, which is really helpful, and just his have him break down things for us is really nice, and everything like that. It's just a whole different mindset at practice. You know, we run at the end of practice every time, and it's not as a punishment. It's because we need to be better conditioned than other teams. So it's just a complete change in mindset for sure.
Yeah, and heading into the MAC tournament, you're heading back down to Fairfield. How are you keeping the team motivated going into the quarterfinals?
It's looking like we're going to play Niagara for the tournament in the first round, and we just match up pretty competitively with them, so it's always back and forth in those games. So it'll be very exciting to play them. This is somewhere we've never been. None of us on the team have been in this position so far, so it's a great experience for all of us to just kind of learn as we go and keep the goal in mind that we want to go play one of the Big Ten teams. There is someone out there, so that'd be very cool.
Yeah, how are you planning on securing that championship game?
Niagara's team is super scrappy, so their defense, they pick up everything. And for our team, we just can't get frustrated. We need to keep taking big swings and be better on our defensive end to keep up with them. But they're definitely beatable, so it should be exciting.
That's great, and thank you for joining us today. That's all I have for you guys. Back to you guys at the desk.
The women's basketball team had revenge on its mind as it opened up the 2016-2017 campaign looking to earn its first ever win against Florida Gulf Coast University. And let's take the tape as we'll go right to the first half. Paula Stroutmane gets the ball, makes a few good moves, and she finds Erin McClure, who takes the mid-range jumper and sinks it. Still in the first half, Quinnipiac's Carly Fabry drives, finds Erin McClure, takes a fake shot and easy layup for her. Still in the first half, Florida Gulf Coast, China Dow gets the rebound, and she could go all the way. Just kidding, she finds her teammate for the easy layup underneath the basket. Still in the first half, Sarah Schuin finds Brittany Johnson for the 3-ball, and Florida Gulf Coast is up 27-26 at half. Second half now, Paula Stroutmane drives to the hoop and one. She gets the foul and the basket. Still in the second half now, Stroutmane gets it again, inside move, makes a few nice moves and drains the bucket. And that's going to do it as Quinnipiac defeats Florida Gulf Coast 66-56.
The men's basketball team also had its season opener. It was Vermont's season opener as well. The Catamounts beat the Bobcats 83-70 last season. Here's Quinnipiac before the game. It features 6 new faces this season. Here's one of them, and Phil Winston. And here's another freshman, Mikey Dixon. But one that really stood out in this season opener was the junior college transfer from Texas, Reggie Oliver, sinking threes, and that was really what he did all game long. He was 4 from 8 from behind the arc. Here, the quick catch and release, no hesitation. He led the team with 15 points. But soon after that, the Vermont freshman Anthony Lamb really took over this game. Here, one-on-one with Abdullah Bundu, he just sinks the jumper. He had 14 points in the first half. And here he'll get the ball from behind the arc. This was only his only three-pointer of the game, but he shot 67% from the field. Here he'll get the go-ahead pass from his teammate for the easy lay-in. He finished with 23 points and 9 rebounds. Tom Moore on the sideline, frustrated with his team's efforts. UVM led by as many as 30 points in this contest. Quinnipiac lost by a final score of 94-70. Obvious defeat on their faces. Quinnipiac's next game is November 21st versus Columbia University.
Sierra, I've been talking about it all night, but the time is finally here.
I thought we'd never get to it, Drew, but here are your top 5 plays of the week, presented to you by B&D Deli Works. Open for breakfast and lunch. Stop in to try the Quinnipiac Panini or the Q-Dog sub. Drew, you grab the odds.
I sure will. Coming in at number 5, women's basketball, Paula Stroutmane with the left-hand drive, the layup, and one as she goes to the line to shoot a free throw. Great play by her.
At number 4, you saw it earlier, Luke Shiplow's ripper from the high slot, but his celebration might have gotten him to the top 5 plays here, Drew. Great celebration.
At number 3, great passing by women's hockey as the puck finds the way to TTC Inferno's stick. She dangles and scores, and Quinnipiac wins this one.
The number 2 play of the week, men's hockey versus Dartmouth. Tim Clifton picks up a turnover and snipes one from one knee. Clifton's 4th power play goal of the season.
And at number 1 this week, we take it to men's soccer in the MAC Championship. Clement Bure takes a shot and gets right past Chris Yakovidis, which this will be the game winner for this one as Ryder wins the MAC Championship.
Well, Drew, that's all we have for Sports Paws tonight. Be sure to follow us on social media at Q30 Television and at Q30 Sports.
And don't forget to check out our website for our constant Quinnipiac athletics coverage at www.q30television.com. For Sierra Goodwill, I'm Drew Feinberg. We'll see you next time.